All right, sit back and relax because it's the fastest hour, fastest 2 hours, because we'll include our national program. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee back, Derek Brandeo, and Jacob the Hammer Schultz. Who is Jacob the Hammer Schultz?
Who is Jacob Hammer Schultz?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it
We had
player?
him.
Is it a hockey player?
No, it's our tech guy.
Yeah. Okay, so Dave Schultz is the hockey guy, right?
Yes.
Okay, but then why did you? I don't know. That's no.
Because I'm nicknaming him now
okay,
the Hammer.
Okay. Yes. That's Jake. That's Jake. I give him
He's
his.
been gone 4 days now.
Here we go. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just Jake the Snake.
It's Jake the Snake. It's Jacob Schultz.
Oh, I thought it was somebody new. The Jacob part, you've never called him Jacob ever.
He's getting more professional. We're going to get his middle name.
Right?
I just like to keep you on your toes, bud.
That's a curveball. That's a complete curveball. Oh, okay. So
I'm Ron Burgundy. just read whatever's on the paper.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm testing him.
I know.
Testing him.
Sammy doesn't need testing today. He's not.
Boys, I'm fighting it.
Yeah, I haven't got a clue who's on our show working it, but we're glad you are aboard. We are live on Sportsnet 590, The Fans, Sportsnet 360, Sportsnet Plus. And yes, he is back. Now, Friday, you had started 32 games in 32 cities, and you quit after 3.
Yeah.
Right? After the Bills-Lions game, you shut it down and came home.
Yeah, not after the game. The next morning, I came home. But I wouldn't say
sobered up.
I wouldn't say I shut anything down after the Bills-Lions games. Boys.
No.
Let's just say that.
Okay.
But,
Pedal stayed down.
I'm really, really happy to be back. I'm surprised now that I'm hearing my own voice in my headphones. I'm impressed with how it sounds.
Yeah.
I will say that my whole equilibrium is totally off from being at an NFL football game. It's the loudest. My ears are still not right.
You were also at a 90-point NFL game that came down to the final plays.
I got to tell you, and I don't want to do too long on this because there's tons of Leafs news to get to, but that was unlike any sporting event I've ever been to in my life. Like I've seen a lot of really, really cool things, been blessed to see a lot of really cool stuff, but what Josh Allen did to the Detroit Lions on Sunday afternoon at 4:25 was one of the more otherworldly sporting event things I've ever seen.
Well, then you didn't see John Tavares against Buffalo then.
I watched the highlights, but that was ridiculous. And if you've never gone to a game in Detroit, now that they're a good team, I can't recommend it enough. It was unbelievable.
So just
10 out of 10.
Sum it up, it was worth the $2,000 you spent.
Absolutely. They're worth the $15,000 that I spent. And
the right arm.
Well, there's a couple rounds after the game and I'm looking down, I'm like, it's only $40. And I'm like, times 5.
The current exchange rate, this is ugly.
These beers are really cheap. Wait a second. No, they're not. But no, I'm really happy to be back. Went to the Wings Leafs game on Saturday night. Was sitting on the roof. Could barely see the game. We were just so high up. But it was fun. And again, so many people came up to me and talked about how much they loved our show. And it was amazing. It was really amazing.
And it sounds like you have nothing but rave reviews for the city of Detroit these days, which is nice. Nice to hear.
Blown away by how good it was.
And we're glad you're back.
Yep.
A shout out for Daniele, Disco Dan, who did a terrific job.
He always does.
Some of the best reads we've ever had.
Clean reads.
Clean reads.
Let me tell you.
Okay, I got to say, there's a big difference between me and Daniele. And the first thing between me and Daniele is he is a professional. He is a professional person. I am a Leaf fan that has made my way onto television with you two guys. The big difference is he is a professional producer and broadcaster, and I am an idiot who has made myself here.
I'm not that far behind you as a host, so that, JP,
He's
you're
a real
it.
professional.
I'm no pro either. I'm an ECHLer.
You're all we have, my friend.
I failed grade 11 math, guys. I'm happy to be here.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
As Sammy has alluded to, there's a ton of news coming out of the Toronto Maple Leafs just when Leaf fans thought it was safe to go back in the water. Dunna, dunna, dunna. Another one goes down.
Yeah.
And Anthony Stolarz. The announcement was made today by General Manager Brad Treliving, who said in all probability he'll be out 4 to 6 weeks to deal with a procedure that is around a tiny little pebble in his knee. Is that how he described it?
Yeah.
Would you like to hear the general manager speak about the injury?
Very much.
All right. Treliving clip 1, please, Derek.
So we did an MRI on him the following day. The good news was everything came back. There's no structural damage. There seemed to be still some discomfort with him and some issues moving his knee, straightening his leg. And there was found like it's almost like a little pebble, like a little loose body that was stuck in behind his knee. So he's going to have a procedure to have that removed. It's not a repair. It's not anything of that nature, but it is. They're going to remove it's like a little loose body, I guess. It looks like a little pebble. And at this time, we're gonna list them as week to week. Hopefully, have a little bit better update. I would anticipate that we're looking in the 4 to 6 week. Hopefully sooner rather than later. So obviously not. You don't want to see anybody out, especially a goaltender that's been playing well like that. But it has to be addressed, and we're going to get it addressed.
Okay, cue Kyle Dubas. Well, everything's great.
Everything's great.
Thank you.
The three idiots, I speak of ourselves, could try to figure this out, but we're gonna go all pro here and invite our leading sports orthopedic surgeon, who's been around for 20 years almost around pro sports, Dr. Jason Smith.
Doctor, and doctor.
Can he spend some time fixing my body after this weekend, too?
Your liver's like a beanbag chair, son.
Hey, you're loaded with pebbles. Loaded. But
By the way, AI says a pebble in the knee could refer to a loose body, which is a small fragment of cartilage or bone that floats in the knee's joint fluid.
All right, let's cancel Dr. Jason Smith then.
Yeah, that's all you need to know. Symptoms include, one of the things is locking of the knee. Wow.
How it pertains to what he's experienced in the past, we'll probably get into a little bit more specific with Dr. Jason Smith, so we'll look forward to that. Also, Adam Oates at the top of the hour, which will be great. And Mike Halford out west will give us a feel for the Vancouver Canucks on our national part of the show. So where JB, we start with you or Sammy, you pick on where the level of concern might be for Leaf fans hearing this news?
I will say that the concern for me and the Leafs is not the length of time that Stolarz is absent. I am not worried that they can't get through the next 6 weeks with Woll and Hildeby or Woll or
Between
whoever.
14 and 19 games, by the way.
Yeah,
during that time.
I'm not worried. Let's say if it is, call it 16 games.
Yeah.
If he plays 10 and Hildeby gets 6, I'm not worried that that's going to affect him that many points. I am more worried about big picture, long-term Anthony Stolarz. Like, is this going to be recurring? Is this going to set him back? Is he going to struggle when in his return? I am worried about Stolarz. I'm not worried about the Leafs while he's out.
That, I think my overarching feeling is that it just sucks. It's it was one of the bright spots of the season. I was loving watching him play. I love the story. And one of my favorite things to say about this was like, what's the catch? Because you sign a guy for $2.5 million for it's 2 years, right? Yeah. And he's giving you like not
$12 million goal.
He's giving you the best goaltending in the league. Yeah. And you're saying to yourself, what's the catch or what's the catch?
And the catch is his knee joint.
And then the catch is a wrister from the half boards buckling his knee and having pebbles floating around in there. So I guess that's the catch. It just
this is uncomfortable.
It just I am with Borny in the exact same way that you're gonna have the same feeling watching him play now that you've watched with Joseph Woll and having both goalies like that. And it's nice to have Joseph Woll, but I'd be lying to you and tell you that I trust him to have a heavy workload coming up here. Like, why would you have any trust that that's going to work out? So it's kind of a scary time here for the Leafs with all these games coming up, and I'm a little concerned. Level of concern higher.
Leafs facing center crisis amid injuries, eyeing trade market for solutions. As the Toronto Maple Leafs battle through a growing injury list and a suspension, their lack of depth at the center position has become a glaring issue. According to Sportsnet's Elliot Friedman in his latest 32 Thoughts article, the Leafs are among the teams exploring trade options to bolster their lineup. This effort is coming amid increasing competition from teams like the Chicago Blackhawks and Nashville Predators, who have also set their sights on improving their center depth. Friedman didn't mince words about the Leafs' predicament. The teams currently focusing on centers, including Chicago and Nashville, must consider when others will enter the market. Toronto will undoubtedly be one of those teams, he wrote. While the Blackhawks and Predators may have an edge in terms of cap space and assets, the Leafs remain a team to watch as the season progresses. The Leafs situation is urgent, with up to 7 forwards currently unavailable due to injury or suspension. Ryan Reeves is serving a 5-game suspension, while key players like Austin Matthews, upper body, Matthew Knies, upper body, Kaye Jarnkrok, groin/sports hernia, David Kampf, lower body, Max Domi, lower body, and Max Pacioretty, lower body, are all sidelined. The team has even considered temporarily shifting Mitch Marner to the center position, highlighting the severity of their depth issues. This isn't just a short-term concern for the Leafs. Depth at center has been a persistent challenge for the team, and while stopgap solutions like Marner could help in the interim, the front office appears keen to explore longer-term fixes. For fans of the blue and white, this has been a recurring theme. The Leafs' center depth often becomes a problem at the worst possible times. James Myrtle of The Athletic recently added more fuel to the speculation, naming several potential trade targets who could help the Leafs address their issues. Among them is Ryan O'Reilly, a familiar name for Toronto fans. O'Reilly, who signed a 4-year, $18 million deal with Nashville in 2023, might be a trade candidate if the Predators' underwhelming start to the season, 6-11-3, 31st in the league, prompts a rebuild. However, his steep price tag and history with the Leafs, including rejecting a free agency offer less than 2 years ago, make this a complex and potentially unlikely move. Other names mentioned by Myrtle include former Leaf Nazem Kadri, currently with Calgary, as well as players like Michael Granlund, Nick Jugstad, Brock Nelson, Yanni Gourde, Trent Frederick, Radek Faksa, and Sean Kuraly. While some of these options seem more plausible than others, it's clear that general manager Brad Treliving will need to get creative to find the right piece without mortgaging the team's future. Cap space remains one of the biggest obstacles for the Leafs. Unlike teams like Chicago and Nashville, which have more flexibility and assets, Toronto is walking a financial tightrope. As Friedman noted, competition will intensify as cap-constrained teams strive to create room. For the Leafs, that could mean waiting for the market to develop further, a risky move given their current needs. The situation also highlights the Leafs' ongoing struggle to build a roster that can withstand the grueling nature of an NHL season. Injuries are an inevitability in hockey, but Toronto's current predicament underscores the importance of depth, a quality the team has struggled to consistently maintain. Looking back on recent years, the Leafs have often leaned heavily on their star players, particularly Matthews, Marner, and William Nylander. While these players have delivered in spades, the lack of reliable depth options has left the team vulnerable in critical moments. The current crisis at center is merely the latest example of this recurring issue. Some fans have called for more aggressive moves from Treliving, arguing that now is the time to strike while the team's core is in its prime. Others, however, are more cautious, pointing to the dangers of overpaying for short-term fixes. Striking the right balance will be key, especially as the Leafs aim to keep their championship window open. Despite the challenges, there's no denying that Toronto has the talent to be a contender, provided they can patch up their lineup. The ongoing rumors and speculation surrounding potential trades show that the Leafs are at least exploring every avenue to strengthen their roster. For fans of the blue and white, this moment feels like a pivotal point in the season. With a lineup ravaged by injuries and a tough schedule ahead, the Leafs must act decisively to avoid falling behind in the standings. The addition of a dependable center could be the difference between weathering the storm or watching another season slip away. Whether it's O'Reilly, Kadri, or another surprise name, one thing is certain: the Leafs are under pressure to deliver. And for a fan base as passionate and loyal as Toronto's, there's no room for excuses. The time to act is now, and Leafs Nation is watching closely. As the trade deadline approaches, the stakes couldn't be higher. Will Treliving pull off a move that solidifies the Leafs' status as a contender, or will the search for center depth become yet another chapter in the team's long history of what-ifs? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure: it's never boring in Leafs land. As the Maple Leafs navigate this critical juncture, their fan base remains as vocal as ever. Toronto is a city that breathes hockey, and the pressure on Brad Treliving to make the right moves is immense. Every decision he makes or doesn't make will be scrutinized, from talk radio to social media, where Leafs Nation is already debating the merits of the various names being floated as potential trade targets. Among the louder debates is whether the team should prioritize a high-profile acquisition like Ryan O'Reilly or Nazem Kadri, or focus on a lower-cost, reliable center who can fill a supporting role without costing too many future assets. While O'Reilly's leadership and playoff experience make him an attractive option, his contract and recent history with the Leafs add layers of complexity to any potential reunion. Similarly, Kadri's gritty, two-way playstyle remains a fan favorite, but his cap hit and availability might render him an unrealistic target. Another factor complicating the Leafs situation is their tight salary cap. While Chicago and Nashville can make moves with relative ease due to their financial flexibility, Toronto must navigate a labyrinth of constraints to make any trade work. This likely means including salary retention or moving existing contracts to make room, which could drive up the cost of any potential deal. The question then becomes, how much are the Leafs willing to sacrifice to address their immediate needs? One potential trade partner generating buzz is the Seattle Kraken. Yanni Gourde, a dependable two-way center, has been mentioned as a possible target. Gourde's versatility and championship pedigree from his time with Tampa Bay make him an appealing option. Seattle, however, is in playoff contention and may not be inclined to part with a key piece unless the Leafs can provide a substantial return. Another intriguing name is Brock Nelson of the New York Islanders. Nelson is a consistent scorer and reliable faceoff-man, qualities that would undoubtedly bolster Toronto's center depth. However, the Islanders are notoriously cautious when it comes to trades, and prying Nelson away would likely require a significant package, including picks or prospects that the Leafs may be hesitant to part with. For all the trade talk, some analysts believe the solution might come from within. Sheldon Keefe has shown a willingness to experiment with his lineup, and players like Pontus Holmberg or Fraser Minton could be given an opportunity to step up. While relying on less experienced players carries risks, it might be the Leafs' only option if the trade market proves too costly or slow to develop. Adding to the Leafs' urgency is the timing. The Atlantic Division remains one of the toughest in the league, with teams like Boston, Florida, and Tampa Bay continuing to dominate. Any prolonged slump could see Toronto slip further down the standings, putting their playoff hopes in jeopardy. For a team with Stanley Cup aspirations, failing to address their weaknesses could have catastrophic consequences. Brad Treliving's history as a general manager suggests he's not afraid to make bold moves. His time with the Calgary Flames was marked by blockbuster trades, including the acquisition of Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar in the Matthew Tkachuk deal. Leafs fans hope he brings that same decisiveness to Toronto, especially as the trade deadline looms. Beyond the immediate need for a center, this situation underscores a broader issue with the Leafs' roster construction. Depth has been a perennial concern, and while Toronto boasts some of the league's top-end talent, their reliance on a handful of stars has left them vulnerable in moments like this. Moving forward, addressing this imbalance must be a priority for the front office if the team is to achieve sustained success. As the Leafs head into a critical stretch of the season, the next few weeks could define their trajectory.